Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a complete 15-0 championship challenge guide for the championship challenge, which is coming out on Friday. So this is the first time in a while I've had the chance to do any guides, because for months and months now it's just been unlimited live, so a little bit boring in that department, but at least now I can give you guys the best compositions, the best tips, and all of that good stuff. So before we jump into it, then make sure you're using the creator code. That'd be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's hop into it. Alright guys, so jumping into set number 1, we have a bounty layer cake. So as always, what I recommend with set number 1 is to play more than likely your most comfortable brawlers, but you got to be, of course, careful of the brawlers that are used a lot. So those are brawlers like Tick, brawlers like Edgar, all of those kind of noob friendly brawlers you'll be facing a lot in set number 1. So anyways, layer cake, the best composition for layer cake is going to be Tick, Penny, and Shelly. So Penny is just a really noob-friendly brawler in that sense. She's just easy to pick up and play, and she's good against everything. Make sure you're using a Master Blast to stop power, because that will knock back any tankier options. And then, of course, you got the Salty Barrel to fall back on as well. Penny's just good against everything, especially with that turret. It'll be really good against the noobs in the first stage. And then, of course, you got Tick. So Tick is just really annoying when it comes to bounty and knockout at the moment. And then, of course, you've got his gadget and his super to knock back any tanks, and just use Tick to push the enemies back as much as possible with his shots. Not all the time you have to be getting kills with Tick. As long as you're forcing them into an uncomfortable area and keeping them low, your teammates should be able to do the rest. And then finally, we have Shelly. So Shelly is the best brawler in the game right now. All the pros are saying that she's the #1 brawler and needs to be nerfed. So I think pretty much on every single game mode and map, I'm going to be saying Shelly, but even more so at the beginning stages, because if there's any sign of tanks, whether that be Mortis, whether it just be any brawler with a lot of HP, Shelly in this meta is just going to absolutely delete them, literally delete them. And she can delete other brawlers as well, because she's got a very fast movement speed. Pair that with clay pigeons, and also on a kind of bouncy game mode, I typically use Band-Aid to keep you alive a little bit longer, but it's up to you on your preference. But Band-Aid will help you out a little bit in this scenario. Then there's a lot of other options as well. You can go Poco double tank, whether that be with like a Sam and a Carl, or whether that be with like a Rosa, for example. And there's other options like Meg in the middle, Jean, you know, Ruffs as a lane is pretty decent, Gray is a good assassin on this map, and you also have the likes of Leon. So a lot of options, but you should be pretty comfortable with all of them. Guys, so jumping into set number 2, we have a Gem Grab Crystal Arcade. So as you can see on the screen, these are going to be the best mids and the best lanes for you to use. So there's actually quite a lot of good mids on Crystal Arcade. So a lot of choice, to be honest, all as good as each other. And yeah, as I said, really up to you what you want to pick. So that's the likes of Meg, B, Penny, Gus, Jean, and Max. So a lot of different options. To be honest, I'd rather go for like the Meg or the B in the middle, just because they're pretty much good against everything. Meg's going to be really good on this map in specific, because of course in that mech form you can easily pinch the lane. So that's really going to be essential on this map, is to win your lane, because then you can start getting a spawn trap going. So you run the vision gear on the Meg or just any of your mid brawlers, and you're going to help out your lane pretty simple. So I think vision gear on pretty much every single brawler here, unless you're playing a tank. And then, of course, as your lanes end. So again, I went with a Shelly, because you pair Shelly with the speed gear at the moment, and it just makes her insane. It's really hard to kill a Shelly, and all you have to do once you get one kill with your super is just hide behind a wall, because then you can just pop that super onto them, clay pigeon them, and just rinse and repeat over and over again. It's so hard to kill Shelly at the moment in this meta. And then next up, we have the likes of Ems as well. So Ems is another brawler which is pretty good against Shelly, but she's just used often, because especially when it comes down to blind picks, because Ems is good against everything, but on this map in particular, she just holds so much presence down the lane, again with the speed gear, and it's pretty easy to just use your super for zoning as well. And not a lot of brawlers can really take down Ems. She's got quite a lot of HP, so even if she's facing off against one of her regular counters, she can just use the walls and the grass to her advantage. So a lot of other options as well, if you don't like the likes of Shelly, for example. So you have Spike again with the vision gear. Make sure you're kind of preserving your ammo, using the vision gear, making sure the opponents aren't sneaking up on you. And then once you get the pinch with your mid, you should just be able to dominate with Spike, especially once you start cycling your supers. Then next we have Nita. So just like Ems, a pretty good brawler against everything, but a really good tank counter. And Nita just holds so much presence in the grass as well, because she has so much HP. A lot of other options as well: Sandy, Leon, Carl, Penny, and Janet. So a lot of options that you can pick, as well as Crow and Ash. So yeah, set number 2 shouldn't really be having to worry. Let's hop into the next one. All right guys, so now jumping into set number 3, we have Pinhole Punt. So Pinhole Punt is a staple to the Brawl community. So a lot of people should know how to play this map already. The meta's not changed too much, except for, of course, Shelly down the lanes. So in terms of mids then, there's about 4 mids which I recommend. So whether that still be B, even though she received a nerf, I think this is the map which she'll always be really strong on. She's just essential to shutting down those tankier brawlers, just cycling at those 3k shots like there's no business. And again, using a vision gear and speed, it just makes B a really good force. And then if you don't like B, you know, of course, sometimes it can be hard to hit those shots consistently. Then you got the likes of Max, Meg, and Poco. So Poco's just going to be really annoying on this map, especially with the speed gear. And then Meg's just going to be really easy to scout the mid, and Meg's just easy to play and just one of the best brawlers in the game. So you can't go wrong with a Meg mid on this map. And then in terms of lanes then, so again, I went with Shelly and Ems, because Shelly and Ems are just so good in their blind picks, you know, on ladder. I'm really used to talking about Power League, but still these brawlers are dominant on Power League and Brawl. They shut down tanks and they can shut down other brawlers as well. Shelly is just such a nuisance in this meta. You just have to make use of how strong she is on this map and just in general everywhere. And then again, if you don't like the likes of Ems, you know, I recommend going Shelly no matter what. If you don't like Ems and feel like you're going to anti-tank, then you could go the likes against Spike, pretty good down the lane. Sandy, really strong in Brawl right now, particularly on this map because you can wall peek so well with Sandy. Leon's pretty good. You can put that lollipop drop straight away in the middle, and it's going to be really hard for the opponents to kind of scout whether you've gone into the grass or not. And then of course you got Carl. You can use Carl to just gadget straight down the lane and get infinite pressure straight away. And then you have Penny, Janet, and Nita. So there's quite a few options. I always recommend covering your bases with your composition whenever it's blind picks, making sure you got multiple tank counters there, because all it needs is for someone to show up with like a Poco at double tank and just run through you. But to be honest, you don't even need like a B and a Shelly. You could just literally run Shelly in your composition and she'll counter tanks on her own. She's literally that good. So that's going to be set number 3. Let's hop into set number 4. Alright guys, so now jumping into set number 4, we have a knockout out in the open. So at least a little bit of a different meta somewhat here, because long range is going to be the name of the game. But I still believe you could actually, if you're a really good Shelly player, I'd still recommend going Shelly here. But I'm going to give you some alternatives for sure. So the best composition, in my opinion, is going to look something like this. It's going to be the likes of Jean, Brock, and Eve. So Jean, of course, has just been so pinnacle in Knockout and Bounty, but in this map in particular, because you just need the vision gear on him and you can scout that entire grass. Brock, of course, has always been good in out in the open, because what you want to do is use the gadget just to break open that back wall straight away, because the problem always is with this map is like once you lose position and once you'll get spawn trapped so easily, and it's literally a 3-round win if the opponents manage to push you back to spawn. So you want to be preventing that and making more areas for you to push forward and not get spawn trapped essentially. And next up, I went with Eve. So Eve is going to be floating around the left hand side. Of course, she's going to be pretty much good against everything. She's going to be decent against long range, decent against any aggro brawlers, because you can use that gadget to get away, and just overall just a really underrated pick when it comes to knockout. But if you don't want to go any of those brawlers and feel like you want more of a punch, then of course you can go Max in the middle. You know, if you're really feeling the Max is so dominant on this map, but you need to be good and you need to be making a lot of pressure, because pressure is normally the name of the game when it comes down to this map, in my opinion. And then you also have the likes of Gray. Gray can be really solid because, again, he's pretty good against everything. It might take him a while to get his first super on knockout. Once you get your first super, you can literally counter any brawler in this specific meta, whether that be sharpshooters, because you can just tap them a few times, whether that be any throwers you might face off against, and you can still be somewhat okay against aggro picks as well, but they're not really too common when it comes down to this map. You've also got Artie in the middle. Artie is still one of the best brawlers in the game, and he's so strong when it comes down to knockout, because all you need is a couple of quick taps, you know, in synergy with, I don't know, for example, say if you have a Piper on your team or a Nanny, you know, if you mark someone and then they tap them, they're just going to delete them instantly. So Artie's really strong, and of course you've got his split form to counter any potential tanks, so he's a really solid option here. And I did mention Nanny and Piper, 2 really solid options as well. Don't recommend going like to the same brawlers in that sense, because of course if you're just missing your shots, you're going to lose the game pretty quickly. And then the likes of Tick's a pretty safe option here. He's actually drafted quite a fair amount when it comes down to competitive, because he's just pretty much good against everything, and he's really good at zoning on this map in particular. And then you have Belle, you have Meg. You know, Meg, you can just W key. If you don't know what that means, it's just running a straight line, literally, because you have so much HP, and you've also got the automatic healing now. It's just a really broken mechanic when it comes down to a game mode like knockout. And then you have other options as well, Max and Shelly, which I've already mentioned. So knockout, out in the open, always, as I recommend, try as much as possible to get that first kill, and then you should be able to win the round easily. Alright guys, so jumping into the fifth and final set, we have Heist Hot Potato. So this one is going to be a little bit scary because Hot Potato in particular is a very base race map when it comes down to ladders. So there's a lot of different brawlers you can pick, but my recommendation is just making sure that you're not defending all of the time. You really need some aggression in your composition. Don't just go all control brawlers. So in terms of the best mids, then you can go 4 mids in my opinion. There's 2 glaringly better mids than everyone else, and that's going to be Colette or Ems. So I recommend Ems just because, again, you can just keep running up the map over and over again with a speed gear. She's going to shut down multiple tanks, and also if you do then get the kills, you can get a lot of damage with Ems as well. That's why I really like her. But if you fancy Colette instead, you can just go with a Colette because she can still shut down tanks just as well. And then of course you can go with Rico or Jessie. Jessie's a really off meta pick, but she's like a low-key brawler because especially with a pet gear, she can actually get a lot of damage. And Rico, if you're not fancying Rico down the middle, you can just shove him down the lane because he's going to shut down so many compositions and also a decent tank counter. And then he can convert that kind of defense into offense with Rico pretty well. And then there's a lot of other options. So Barley, he's a really strong option, but only if you're a good Barley or Dynamite. So of course you've got to be careful of aggro picks, but you know, throws can be so dominant. You just got to be really careful. You've got to make sure you're a very good thrower because you can easily get countered by multiple aggro brawlers. But I'd still recommend going it because you can still counter the control. You know, if you're facing off, for example, against like a Rico, a Barley or a Dynamite's going to be able to just thrive against him. And then you've got other options as well. You've got Shelly, who's one of the best brawlers in the game and still so strong on Heist. Definitely recommend going to Shelly. But if you're really bored of playing, of course, you can go someone else. You can go Nita. Nita with the pet gear as well is actually insane on this map. Whether you want to pick her as a mid or a lane, I think she's a solid option. You also, for me, again, you've got to make sure you're having one brawler that is constantly on the aggression. So for me, you've kind of got one brawler that's definitely defending, one brawler that's kind of mixing around, and then one brawler that's basically going aggro 24/7. So that can be whether that's a Daryl, whether that's a Buzz, whether that's a Bull, or just at least someone that can deal a lot of damage. So a lot of different options on this map. Just be careful because, like I said, it's a very base race map, making sure you're not spending all of your time defending. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this one. So let me know what you think of all my compositions in the comment section. Of course, it's not until Friday if I didn't mention already, but that should just be a given anyways. That's when the championship challenge normally comes out. But I think this one is a little bit more predictable in the sense that you can just pretty much go like Meg, Shelly, Ems pretty much everywhere in this meta, and you should be pretty good to go. But it's going to be a little bit scary in some ways because Hot Potato, if I remember correctly, I think one of the championship challenges at the beginning of the year, some pro players actually lost it because there was like a heist map, and it was pretty hard because people would just go like so many tanky options and just keep YOLOing on the safe. So you've got to be really careful on that last map. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.